Every day, whether we realize it or not, we negotiate. When you bargain with a shopkeeper, discuss deadlines with your boss, or decide where to eat with friends, you're in the middle of a negotiation. But what if everything we know about negotiation is wrong? What if winning doesn't mean defeating the other side, but finding a better way for both? Welcome to the world of Getting to Yes by Roger Fisher, William Ury, and Bruce Patton, a revolutionary guide that redefines how we reach agreement without giving in. Chapter 1. Don't bargain over positions. Negotiation, at its core, is how humans navigate conflict and cooperation. Yet most people instinctively use what's called positional bargaining, taking a stance, defending it, and slowly making concessions until some compromise is reached. It's the age-old scene. A customer haggling with a shopkeeper, a diplomat demanding terms, or a couple debating a vacation spot. The problem is, positional bargaining turns negotiation into a contest of will rather than a search for solutions. The more you argue for your position, the more attached to it you become. Your ego gets involved, and changing your stance begins to feel like losing face. Fisher and Ury illustrate how positional bargaining leads to unwise, inefficient, and often damaging outcomes. It's inefficient because it wastes time and energy. Each side spends hours making tiny concessions and testing limits. It's unwise because both parties end up compromising instead of addressing their true interests. And it's destructive because it strains relationships. The authors point to an alternative approach, one not based on power or compromise, but on principle. Instead of asking, who's going to win, we should ask, how can both of us get what we truly need? That's the foundation of principled negotiation. Chapter 2. Separate the people from the problem. One of the biggest mistakes negotiators make is letting emotions and ego blur the line between the issue and the individual. People take things personally, assume bad intentions, and react defensively. When that happens, the problem and the person become one, making progress nearly impossible. Fisher and Ury urge negotiators to separate the two, focus on solving the problem, not attacking the person. They remind us that negotiators are human first, full of emotions, perceptions, and pride. Misunderstandings are inevitable. A tone of voice, a single word, or even body language can derail a discussion. The key is to treat people respectfully, acknowledge emotions, and communicate clearly. Always try to see the situation from the other person's perspective. For example, a union worker may think his manager is unfairly targeting him, while the manager believes he's rewarding competence. Only by understanding each other's point of view can both move forward. Once emotions are recognized and separated from the issue, both sides can focus on problem-solving rather than personal defense. Chapter 3. Focus on interests, not positions. When people argue over positions, they're often just presenting the surface of what they truly want. Interests, on the other hand, reveal the deeper motivations behind those positions. Fisher and Ury stress that understanding these interests is the real key to agreement. A position is I want this. An interest is because it helps me achieve this. For example, when two people fight over an orange, one might want the juice while the other wants the peel for baking. Once they discuss their interests, both can get what they want. The authors explain that focusing on interests leads to empathy, creativity, and more lasting agreements. It shifts the tone from confrontation to collaboration. To uncover interests, they recommend asking questions like, why is this important to you? Or what problem are you trying to solve? By exploring the why behind the what, you uncover possibilities that positional thinking hides. When both sides understand each other's core needs, they can jointly create outcomes that satisfy everyone. Chapter 4. Invent options for mutual gain. Most negotiations fail not because people can't agree, but because they never take the time to imagine new possibilities. Fisher and Ury challenge the zero-sum mindset, the belief that one side's gain must be the other's loss. Instead, they urge negotiators to expand the pie before dividing it. The process begins with brainstorming freely, suspending judgment, exploring creative solutions, and avoiding premature decisions. The authors suggest using 4 key steps. Separate inventing from deciding, broaden your options, look for mutual gains, and make decisions easy. They encourage negotiators to sit side by side, not across the table, and view the problem as something to solve together. For instance, two companies disputing over a contract might find that by adjusting timelines or sharing certain resources, both can benefit. When creativity replaces confrontation, unexpected win-win solutions often emerge. Chapter 5. Insist on using objective criteria. When all else fails, fairness must become the anchor. Emotions, power plays, and persuasion tactics can distort judgment, but objective standards restore balance. Fisher and Urey emphasize using independent benchmarks like market value, expert opinion, or legal precedent to guide decisions. Objective criteria ensure that no one's will dominate the process. Instead of saying, "I deserve this," you can say, "Let's see what's fair based on these facts." The authors remind us that insisting on objective criteria protects both sides. It prevents manipulative tactics and creates a shared sense of legitimacy. When negotiations are grounded in fairness and reason, both parties can walk away feeling respected and confident. In the end, principled negotiation isn't about outsmarting the other side. It's about aligning on truth and logic so that both can say yes with integrity. Chapter 6. What if they are more powerful? Develop your BATNA. One of the most practical insights in getting to yes is the concept of BATNA, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. It's the safety net that defines how much leverage you truly have. Many people enter negotiations afraid of losing, thinking the other side holds all the cards. But Fisher and Urey flip that fear into empowerment. The stronger your alternative, the stronger your position. If the deal fails, what will you do next? That's your BATNA. The authors emphasize that knowing your BATNA gives you power because it prevents desperation. When you're unsure of your alternatives, you become vulnerable to accepting unfavorable terms. But if you've prepared, if you know your next best option, you can negotiate with confidence and clarity. This awareness shifts your mindset from, "I must make this deal work," to, "I'll make this deal work only if it's better than my alternatives." Fisher and Urey also advise negotiators to estimate the other side's BATNA. Understanding what options they have outside the negotiation can help you gauge how flexible or rigid they might be. Ultimately, the stronger and more realistic your BATNA, the less dependent you are on the will of others, and the more likely you are to reach a fair, balanced agreement. Chapter 7. What if they won't play? Use negotiation jujitsu. Sometimes, no matter how reasonable or well-prepared you are, the other side refuses to cooperate. They may attack, dig in, or use manipulative tactics to pressure you. Fisher and Urey's answer to this is negotiation jujitsu. Borrowed from martial arts, this approach avoids direct confrontation. Instead of meeting force with force, you redirect it, transforming their hostility into an opportunity for dialogue. When the other party attacks your position, don't counterattack. Instead, deflect by asking questions. If they make rigid demands, ask them why those terms are important. If they attack you personally, focus on the issue, not the insult. The key is to keep your composure and refuse to get drawn into a battle of egos. Another effective tactic is to reframe their statements. For example, if someone says, "Your proposal is unrealistic," you might respond, "Can you help me understand which parts seem most difficult?" This invites collaboration instead of escalation. If all else fails, the authors recommend bringing in a neutral third party to guide the conversation. A mediator or facilitator who can help both sides refocus on principles and interests. The essence of negotiation jujitsu is psychological agility. Instead of resisting pressure, you use it to guide the other side toward problem solving. Chapter 8. What if they use dirty tricks? Taming the hard bargainer. Negotiations can turn ugly when one side plays dirty, using deception, manipulation, or threats to gain an edge. Fisher and Urey identify 3 types of tricky tactics: deliberate deception, psychological warfare, and positional pressure. The first involves lies and misrepresentation, false facts, hidden authority, or unrealistic promises. The second uses intimidation, guilt, or personal attacks to throw you off balance. The third manipulates structure, fake deadlines, take it or leave it offers, or refusal to negotiate fairly. The authors insist that awareness is your first defense. Recognize these tactics for what they are, and then calmly call them out. Don't retaliate. That only escalates conflict. Instead, bring the discussion back to fairness and shared principles. For instance, if someone sets an arbitrary deadline, you might respond, "I understand the urgency, but let's agree on a timeline that works for both of us." If they lie about facts, request verification. "Can we both check that information to be sure?" The goal is to shift the conversation from manipulation to reason. By staying calm, transparent, and grounded in principle, you neutralize dirty tricks and remind both sides that integrity produces the best long-term results. Chapter 9. 10 Questions People Ask About Getting to Yes. In the final section, Fisher, Urey, and Patton address common doubts about principled negotiation. Is it too idealistic? What if the other side refuses to cooperate? Or what if power dynamics are too uneven? The authors respond by reaffirming that principled negotiation isn't naive, it's strategic. It doesn't depend on goodwill, but on structure, preparation, and clarity. Even when the other side is difficult, you can use the same 4 core principles: separate people from the problem, focus on interests, invent options for mutual gain, and insist on objective criteria to stay on course. They explain that these principles work because they align with human psychology and fairness. Whether dealing with personal relationships, business deals, or international diplomacy, the method focuses on mutual respect and rational problem-solving. The book closes with a reminder: getting to yes is not about surrender or compromise. It's about crafting wise agreements that satisfy both parties' essential interests. When practiced consistently, this approach transforms negotiation from a battlefield into a workshop, a place where problems are solved, relationships are strengthened, and both sides walk away with dignity and success. Getting to Yes isn't just a book about negotiation. It's a blueprint for understanding human interaction. It teaches us that the best agreements don't come from dominating others, but from understanding them. It's not about splitting differences, but expanding possibilities. Whether you're closing a $1 million deal or resolving a family dispute, the path to success begins with one powerful principle: stop fighting to win and start working to understand. Because in the end, the greatest victory in negotiation is when both sides can say yes.